Hello there, and welcome again to the Impact Zone podcast, where we are discussing the outcome from Victory Road, all the results right here. What a show, though. First off, foremost, before we go too far, and as I say, I think I will try to get some things set up for Bound for Glory, even if I'm on other channels. I don't know. I'll try to keep you guys informed with what I'm trying to do and whatnot. But yes, very big show. And as I sort of said, I thought about it I was umming and erring about the main event title match there, and I don't know. It still feels like there's a lot lacking. In terms of programming, and that is a problem. Everyone that's on their roster, well, pretty much everyone that's on their roster is a solid wrestler. Not everyone has a solid background, resume, whatever, win-loss record, effectively. You just know a lot of these people aren't going to win or aren't going to, pull through at the end of the day because their win-loss record or how they've been presented hasn't been very strong. So it's just a little bit hard to believe in some of these people. But we'll go bottom to top. We could easily talk about the world title match, but it is what it is. We'll get there. We'll get there, and everyone kind of anticipates that. So, hey, to get you guys to stick around to watch the whole video, hopefully. But anyway, Kushida versus Kushida. Leon Slater versus Kushida. Dyslexic here, apparently. I don't even know what's going on. I thought that Kushida would probably lose. I thought Gresham would attack him, but obviously not, and I was pretty surprised by that. I'd still like to see what Gresham's going to do, where that's going to go, etc. I'm surprised that Leon didn't win, honestly, but, fair play. He had a really good match out there with Kushida, nice opening, crowd opening match. It wasn't the hoverboard lock off the top. It was a cross arm breaker off the top, which looked pretty devastating there. So, I don't know what to think of that. I guess they're trying to keep doing stuff with Kushida too. He's been in the mix of being like almost the world champion and almost the X Division champion. So he's been certainly up there, and like maybe giving Leon a rivalry with Kushida, even if it's like a friendly rivalry of some sort, like, or whatever. It's something to give, somebody something to kind of work with when, you don't have a lot to perhaps work with sometimes, or it's tough to figure out exactly the right direction for somebody. But yeah. Pretty fine wrestling match here. It would have probably been one of the better matches of the night if it had been given just a little bit more time, I think. What was it last week that Wentz... I don't remember now. I think Wentz had a match with somebody, and I think it was basically match of the night. But yeah... Same with Kushida. He's had a lot of, matches that were effectively match of the night and whatnot. He almost had the match of the night here with Leon. I think if they had been given more time and a real story or whatever, it would have been a little bit more interesting. But it was just fine for just like an opening match on the card. Gian Miller caught up with Josh Alexander, who had some strong words for Joe Hendry. We'll talk more about that when we get there. Macklin and Eric Young versus Jake something and Hammerstone. So I was talking about how I was like, are these guys going to be a tag team going forward? And from the basis of everything I saw on this show, it feels like they certainly are. It doesn't feel like Jake's something. This is what I wanted from. It's tough to say 100%, obviously, but what I wanted from Jake something to showcase to me as a person who says, okay, well, are you going to be the next guy? Is that character progression? And perhaps that could still be coming, so you could sort of do something with that. You can't change you can't change your gimmick or your stance as far as being a heel or a babyface without changing up your gimmick. That's a surefire way to just be like getting yourself lost in the shuffle. And again, it feels like, yeah, they've sort of lost themselves in the shuffle a little bit. Again, especially with like what's happening later on in the card. But I don't know. They could figure it out that, like, with Hammerstone and Jake being a tag team, that they could be a good tag team. I don't know. like I said, the tag team division still needs more tag teams. So, but again, I felt for both of these guys that I really wanted them to win, because I was like, man, they basically haven't won, and I want to see them actually start progressing, or even progressing as single stars. But still, even if they're progressing as a tag team, like, you can't fault it in some ways. Like, yes, it comes from the company and it comes from, well, not management, but the people that are writing these stories and whatnot to try to push people. But it's also from the wrestler themselves. They've got to go out and say, okay, no, look, hey, I really want to be the next big thing or whatever. I want to carry this company or whatever else it is, and start doing that stuff. Look at what Joe Hendry did. He got himself out there and he started doing those interviews left, right, and center. And, perhaps that's not in these guys' comfort zone if they want to just be like there and doing good work and whatnot. I get that, and being an important part of the roster. Yeah, sure, cool. But again, if you're going to be one of the top guys, you really need to do a lot more than that. So, I don't know. Just I thought that the fact that they won in the end of this was kind of good, but it sort of leads you with more questions, because it feels like, again, as I said, are they a tag team properly now? Are they going to tag on a regular basis? Was this a one-off thing? Like, I kind of want to see more from them individually, and I think a lot of people do. So it's tough to sort of squish them back into a tag team role, I guess. So, but everyone on the card needs to fulfill a role, and if they're not fulfilling a role sort of as, tag as singles wrestlers, they need to be a tag team. But yes, that was the countdown show. And we started the night off in Victory Road, probably with the Hardys versus First Class. I felt like, from before, as I was sort of saying, it was like really weird that the Hardys beat the System, and it's even weirder now, but we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But like, they did beat First Class here. And again, it does feel like, again, as I sort of said, I thought that they're trying to build to maybe some sort of match, triple threat, three-way team match, whatever you want to call it. Maybe four-way, maybe whatever at Bound for Glory. I don't know. But as always, you kind of feel like, well, you want... I don't know. You want the Hardys to go out on a high. I kind of want to see the Hardys and ABC do something, like individually as teams or whatever. I don't want to just see them in a match with the System. Like, I want to see that match too, but I want to see the Hardys and ABC. Like, so I don't know. It's like, even if like the Hardys aren't at their peak and they're whatnot. But they're still really popular. I think the win here for Matt and Jeff just continues to put them in that position of being like the next challengers, especially from what we saw before last week, and whatnot. But it does help First Class in some ways being, on the same par or looked at on the same par in some ways as the Hardys. So we'll have to wait and see when the Hardys actually get to challenge for those titles and how that occurs. Wentz versus Bailey. I was shocked by this. I guess the story here, for the reason being behind this, was somewhat to do with Wes. Not directly, but more indirectly. But this was pretty much the match of the night, 100%. Like, these guys really put out the leather out there and had a great high-flying, unpredictable, back and forth match between these two, both of them sort of emptying their arsenals on each other. The story of the distraction in Wentz's mind throughout the match sort of culminated in Wentz losing the title. I 100% feel like this is the wrong decision in many ways, but as I said, like, the story is kind of there, so you can kind of fall into that story of, like, this is why. You understand it's not just a random occurrence and them, it is hot potatoing the title in some ways, but again, there's a story reason behind it. It's not just, we don't know what to do with this title, we'll throw it back and forth between these two or whatever it is. I guess it kind of sets up another match between these two at some point, somewhere. Maybe Bound for Glory, I don't know, but very tough to sort of figure out. As I sort of said, that's why I felt like just like the decisive Wentz wins. Perhaps maybe that's due to the fact that when Wentz is going back over to NXT, it won't be as good or he'll lose or whatever, so they didn't want him to lose over on NXT, but like everyone pretty much has lost over on NXT that's come there from TNA, and pretty much everyone that's come from TNA come from NXT rather, has lost in TNA, so like, I don't know. I don't see the big hoop there, but again, this just match just like absolute banger. The outcome probably not what I wanted, I guess, or not what was expected in some ways, but it makes some amount of sense. So I think that's kind of cool. I've said this before, and I don't want to dive too deep into it, but I don't really like Speedball Mike Bailey all that much, realistically. I don't know. Like, I like him as a wrestler. I think he's a good wrestler, and very talented out there, but I don't really enjoy his character and his personification as much. I think when Wentz won it, I was like really happy because I was like, wow, Wentz is actually, like, even though that he was kind of he's still transitioning between being a heel and going towards being a babyface and whatnot, but like, I still preferred him because he just like had way more charisma and whatnot, so that's kind of what I was kind of looking for in a champion, somebody who can wrestle and have like, that connection to the audience. I being part of that audience, so again, I don't know. But still, I think like you'll see these guys wrestle again, and they'll might have a different outcome. But that I won't know when that will be. We'll have to wait and see. The System had a promo about System Reboot. Is it going to happen tonight? Now, the next match, well, it was going to be a match, but it didn't happen. So, I don't know. I don't know why exactly, like, they went through the whole song and dance of this, kind of. I don't know. I really don't. So, I don't know. I don't understand, like, you should have probably just, like, done this on, like, TV and not promoted this match. Because when you're promoting a match, you're saying that this match is going to happen. Like, if you're going to say they're, like, these guys just went out there to have an angle, which is what they effectively did, okay, cool. It's an angle. Like, angles, like, typically angles sort of happen on TV for the most part. But then again, like my problem has been here and there, as I sort of said, that they haven't done enough angles to sort of set things up sometimes at these pay-per-views. They've done it sometimes. They've certainly done it with, like, Matt Hardy coming in, Nick Nemeth coming in, those sorts of things, some of that sort of stuff. So there definitely has been some of that, but not nearly enough. So I feel like, and like Hash by Elegance maybe, but like there are a few examples, but again, not nearly enough examples where things were like something was an angle so that you could buy into, okay, this is where this is going, like you can sort of see somewhat where this is going. This is, as I sort of said before, this is obviously going down towards PCO and Matt Cardona for the custody of Steph DeLandre or whatever. So I'm sure that'll be happening at Bound for Glory. But like as I said, I think it was a bit of a misstep to like advertise this as a match. Perhaps they didn't really know that Steph was that banged up, and it was just a thing on the night where they were like, well, you've still got to go out there and well, we'll give you the mic and you cut a little promo and whatnot. But yeah, I guess again it was like a match that was kind of thrown together at not the last minute, but it was a match that was thrown together the week or the couple of days before, sort of thing. So people really didn't have that much investment in this one, I guess, in some regards. But yeah, people have been following this story for a while, certainly. So it's like, well, I guess this does escalate the story in some ways, but not enough in some ways as well. So I don't know. I don't know. As again, I say, like, you look back at that roster for everyone and anyone to face anyone and anyone. It's like, man, who is anyone going to face next? So I don't know. As I said, I kind of want to see something for Rhino at Bound for Glory, since he was like in the main event of the first Bound for Glory and whatnot. So I don't know. He doesn't really have a stake in Bound for Glory yet, so I don't know. But I do hope Steph gets her surgery and can recover and return. So we'll have to wait and see. Nick Nemeth had a promo saying, the system will be out, effectively. Knockouts tag team title match. Now, Alicia wasn't able to compete in this match, so Tasha Steelz filled in for her. Which basically led to the militia, I guess, losing the tag team titles, because I guess they were still the champions, even though, like, due to the fact that Steelz was subbing in for Alicia, so I guess it's still the militia as a team, because they actually held the belts. But, like, I think, like, Spitfire were probably going to win this match either way, probably, because of, like, the stipulation that was kind of, like, put on it. A very weird match in some regards, especially the ending. I didn't expect... I expected Steelz to take the pin, honestly. Like, she hasn't been on TV for, like, weeks and whatever else, or even months. Yeah, I didn't expect that outcome. Like, she certainly got a win, before on Explosion, but that's a very minor win, and a lot of those minor wins often like lead to not a lot. So, or even just lead to trying to, reheat somebody or keep the momentum for somebody in some ways in the fans' minds or whatever, or build somebody up, from where they've been. So I don't know. So, but yeah, I don't know that Marsha. Maybe Marsha can be a good babyface, but I'm not very certain of that. Because as I say, it takes a lot to be a great babyface. It doesn't take a lot to be a great heel, really. Um, you know, so I just wonder where that's going to go, what's going to happen from here, as always with everything. But still, it's just one of those things. It's like, well, why are you doing this? What's the angle here, or whatever? I don't know. So. And why is Steele's now just like the de facto person in the system, or sort of, satellite member or whatever you want to call it, rather than Marsha, when like Marsha's like got way more legitimacy and way more behind her than what Steele's has. And I don't know that the change is all that interesting or whatever. Perhaps this change was like somewhat going to happen, or this breakup was going to somewhat happen at this point, or whatever, between Alicia and Marsha. So I don't know that. So I guess it's just like Steels is along for the ride now, kind of thing. Like, I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Again, are they going to face each other at Bound for Glory? These teams have faced each other probably like a million times now, but it's like, well, there's no one else in that women's tag team division. But they had a pretty decent match here. So, the crowd right behind them and that. So, Hammerstone and Jake Something sent a message to the entire locker room. Anyone that steps in their way will suffer the same fate as Macklin and Young earlier on. Hendry versus Alexander. I think this is the match that nearly everyone wanted to see. I certainly wanted to see it. I don't know. I am a little bit disappointed in some ways. I think these guys had a great match, but and told a great story. That's always the thing about great matches as well, is people forget that great matches also tell great stories. It's not just a great match because, the action is good or whatever. When the action is good and there's a great story behind it, then you have a really great match. This was a really great match because there was a great story behind it and there was some great action behind it. You combine those two things and you get this. Like I said, when I look at the roster, when I look at Bound for Glory, when I look ahead to what's going on next, all that sort of thing, who's Nick Nemeth facing? Like, you're giving Hendry this win, so are you actually going to give Hendry a match against Nick Nemeth? That's my, crux of everything. And I guess I'm going to have to ask that again later on tonight, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe there is something between the two parties that we're going to see down the road, and that rivalry sort of hasn't really finished up, so we'll have to wait and see with that. But this match, this match was great. The story was great. Everyone behind Joe Hendry throughout, and I feel for Josh because it's like, as I said, now he really needs something, so, but what is it? And there's only one thing I can think of, but it's like, is WWE, or is there a agreement, or is there something where that's going to actually happen? Or is he just kind of going to bum around like the upper mid card for the rest of the year? Like, even if he like wins at Bound for Glory, it's like, well, what's he going to do after Bound for Glory? It's like, he can't challenge Joe Hendry straight away, can he? Like, and what then? Because surely he can't win. So, or unless like he wins like Feast or Fired and sort of does the thing that Moose did to him like a couple of years ago or whatever it was, where he steals the title from Hendry, and then, you have the chase again, from Hendry to Alexander. That could work, I guess. That's the only other thing that I can realistically think of as a way to sort of push him back into the position that I feel like he needs to be. Like, he needs to be one of the top guys, not just middling around the upper mid card. But anyway, ABC versus the System. Now, again, like, I feel like the card's a little bit wonky with like the ABC and the System here going on again after, Josh Alexander and Joe Hendry, which was probably should have been like the semi-main event or one of the semi-main events, at least above like the System and ABC here. But whatever, this was quite good. The whole story of Chris Bay's hurt ribs throughout the whole thing, the System taking advantage of Chris Bay's hurt ribs, focusing in on that body part, even Ace Austin getting a hurt leg at sort of somewhere in the match, and sort of having difficulties here and there with that as well. Though didn't really play much of a part. The ribs of Chris Bay really played more of a part in this one, from that well, not beatdown, but from the match that they had with First Class. As I said, like, now that the System have regained those titles, and they've basically only just lost them realistically again. So again, it feels very hot potato-y at the moment. But again, like, you can justify it in some ways, but it's also like, well, the System also already lost to the Hardys, which I guess, again, is a reason for them to be looking like they're the ones challenging at some point. But again, I really want to see something like on a major stage, not just on a random episode of TV or whatever between the ABC and the Hardys. Like, because the ABC, like, even like if they're going to split up at some point, are like a young tag team, and you need these young tag teams to carry that division. So it's a tough ask. Maybe like the Motor City Machine Guns are doing something. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Again, seems like they're going to NXT and doing stuff there. So again, I don't know. You kind of want to see more of that and whatnot. So I don't know. But yeah, like I was interested by this match outcome, but it does seem a little like one step forward, two steps back sometimes here and there. Jordynne Grace versus Wendy Choo. Now, I will state that every title match before this was a title change, so that makes like the jeopardy of like matches like these a little bit more sometimes. Like, that's an idea that is used. A little bit of psychology there. But Jordan pulled this one out tonight. But I was very, very impressed with the match quality that these two had. I've never really seen like Wendy Choo wrestle. I've seen her do some angles and do some things and whatnot, but I've never seen her wrestle. So this is the first time I've actually seen her work. And yeah, she reminds me sort of a very young Rosemary in many ways. I think that's intentional, obviously. But again, like, she can work. This girl can work. They had a little bit of a story kind of going into this. But the way that they wrestled sort of brought that match up to the next level with what little story they kind of had, and they only had a couple of weeks to kind of really put this thing together. So it is what it is. Again, as I said, like, this is where it feels like, again, Rosemary attacking afterwards feels like she's the next in line for Bound for Glory. That's fine. I definitely do want to see Grace and Rosemary have at it. I just really wish that Kyle and King was back, because, like, then you could have her doing, like, shit in the background and starting to cause chaos and starting to work her way towards that title, and whatnot. Things like that. That's what you need. You need these other wrestlers that are kind of on the periphery but are getting slowly and surely through the division and slowly feel like they could be the next person that, captures into that next stratosphere. So just having something or someone like that, like Killer Kelly, she's away, she's gone and gotten pregnant and whatnot, and having a baby. Steph DeLandre, and now we know she's going off for surgery and whatnot. So, there's a fair few women out of that roster. We're seeing Xia Li, or whatever her name is going to be now that she's not in WWE, coming at some point to TNA, maybe next week. And again, that sort of thing of saying, oh, this other person's here and they're going to have a match and whatever else, they're going to do something. Yeah, sure, certainly, but they're not going to be in the main event of Bound for Glory at this point. So again, you start wondering, like, well, like, where are you going to go after Bound for Glory? Because you can't just think about Bound for Glory. You got to start thinking about, okay, well, what's after that? Who's after that? Where are we going from there? Certainly Bound for Glory is the most important, but you've got to think after that as well. But this was great. Like just the fight that these two brought was really good. I was interested. I was interested to see, like, if something with Gresham would kind of happen here as well. The attack after the match by Rosemary just signifies, what's going on. And Ariana Grace, I didn't realize, guys, that Ariana Grace is Santina Marella's daughter. So I didn't realize that, guys. Someone is probably going to say, oh, you dummy, why didn't you know that? Because I don't know these things, alright? I don't know these things. So sorry if I don't know every detail, and I knew that he had a daughter, and I knew that she was, like, doing stuff in WWE or NXT or whatever, but I didn't know who it was, and didn't know much about it, so... But they sort of had a moment backstage here. The self-proclaimed king of TNA, Kazarian, comes out to join the commentary. He provided some very interesting commentary for the main event, and that, again, sort of suggests to me that he is going to be the next challenger up to Nick Nemeth, who won here tonight. But I think, like, this was like this delivered as a main event. This was, like, it was up there with being a good match as well. Like, not a technical affair. Lots of counter wrestling, certainly, from Nemeth more so, I guess. But Moose got his counters in there as well. But this was, like, a really, like, hard-hitting, heavy match. Even Nemeth going through a table at one point, which was absolutely insane. And I thought that he might have even gotten knocked out in that spot. The system continued to get involved in this. Santana came in to brawl with JDC to take him out. JBL came in to take out Myers and Edwards, which was a bit crazy, but then again, he did blindside them from from the blind side, so that sort of got them to that point. But it was crazy that, like, I don't love to see wrestlers kick out of other wrestlers' finishers too much, but I feel like the stakes and the precedent or whatever had kind of been set here with these guys in some regards. Like, this is personal, and this is really important, and this is like a very important night. Like, it's not the biggest night, but it's the lead up to the biggest night. So again, you're looking at that perspective of trying to get to that point and trying to be the face of the franchise per se. So yeah, like I as I sort of said before, I hate just like saying good or great match, because that is like every single match was good, if not great. Like, a lot of these matches were really good. But like, when you see a really, really good match, it's like stands out to you. A lot of these matches that I've said, hey, this was really good, or this was a great match, or whatever, it's not just, oh yeah, let's paste 5 stars on this, or 10 stars on this, or whatever else it is, or whatever. No, it was great, but I never really rate things like that. Other people do, and that's fine. I don't really care. But yeah, like, the story and the action is what drives a lot of these things. And as I say, the matches also build the stories that, sort of come into them. I kind of felt like, yes, Nick Nemeth standing strong was kind of cool in some ways, but at least having Kazarian actually, like, in front of him and confront of him, being like, I'm coming for you, I'm not finished with you yet, boy, would have been a nice little thing, at least to kind of visually sort of see, okay, this is where we're going. Really, this is where we're going. And whatnot would have been just a little bit more of, this is what's going on. And that makes it sort of, and again, like, I don't perceive to think that that's that big of a match for Bound for Glory. It isn't, honestly, and they've got to understand that. But if you're not selling people on that being the main event and something else bigger being the main event, which I think something else could still be, like, if you have that lined up, but come on, WWE, like, or come on, TNA, like, we've got to have something, like, we've got to have something really big. And, like, this is what I mean by thinking through some of these decisions and figuring out, well, is this really the direction? Because, like, as I said, you could turn Nemeth heel still, I feel, but I don't know. That feels like a fast turnaround, honestly. So I don't know, but he's like, I still feel like Santana can run through the system for a while, or fight the system for a while. And shenanigans. I don't feel like Hendry can. He's already basically beaten the whole system. Like, yeah, Santana's beaten, Edwards and JDC, but he hasn't gotten... Well, he's obviously going to beat Myers when he faces him, but he hasn't got his hands on Moose, like, and beaten him. Like, he got his hands on Moose, but he hasn't beaten him. So, I mean, that could be a big match at Bound for Glory, just Santana and Moose, But then again, like, as I say, you need more for Santana to do. You can't just, like, oh, well, he beats Moose there, and then what's he going to do? You've got to have more for him to do. Maybe a feud with Josh Alexander. I don't know. That could work out. That wouldn't be bad, but it's like that gives both of them something to kind of do in the meantime or whatever else it is. But again, it's a difficult situation to always figure out how to get the people that you've got to the top and who should be at the top, because it's very crowded at the top, sort of thing. But you've got to have a lot of guys at that top, because you've got to have, a full year's worth of rivalries for any one person or any other one person to sort of go through. They can't just go through all the rivalries that are possible in a few weeks, or whatever. You need to give them something to work with every single week of every single month and every single month and every single year that they're there. So overall, as I said, a great show. I did feel like there need to be a little bit more promo or surprise factor or returns, debuts, that sort of thing here and there or whatnot. But again, that's almost always the way. The wrestling's great, and obviously this is the payoff of a lot of stories building up, but you also need to set stories up as well for later, without negating that sort of finish of this was the end of this chapter of this story or whatever. So, but anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this one here. Unfortunately, I did get the Victory Road preview up here on the channel a little bit late, so I'm sure not many people are actually going to check that out. But as I said, I'll try to get the Bound for Glory stuff together. I'll start putting out some feelers after this, so I can try to do something there for the big show for the year. And I'll try to keep you guys informed with what we're doing. But for now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys will join me in another one.